Hello, and a very warm welcome indeed to today's iOB business webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, whilst we're getting set off for today's webinar session, welcome to those of you that are joining us just now. It's an absolute pleasure to have you in here. So thank you very much for taking the time to join. And just before we get started, just a little bit about how these webinars run so that you can make the absolute most out of today's session. Okay, so first of all, we'll do a brief introduction with myself. Once again, my name is Ben, just about what today's webinar is going to be all about. Okay, and as we get into today's webinar session, we're going to have plenty of opportunity to ask questions all the way throughout. So please know that you're always more than welcome to ask any questions, and you can do so at any point throughout the webinar. Now, on top of that, we're going to have three core topics for today's session. And in between each of these three topics, there's going to be an opportunity to ask any questions and indeed jot down any notes that you may wish to take as well, because we're going to take a brief pause. All right. So if you've been with us before, you'll be familiar. And if it's your first time joining us, that's a little bit about how they run. Okay. So very, very warm welcome to everybody joining us now. Fantastic. We're just approaching the 2 o'clock mark. So I'm going to go ahead and switch off my video camera there. And we will pull out the presentation that we have for you today so that we can get started. All right. So 3 crucial elements to getting a business off the ground, as it were. Okay, so let's talk about exactly what this means then. Now, getting into today's session, right before we get kicked off, if I could just ask a big favor, please. If you can hear my voice okay, and you can see the presentation up on screen okay, please give me a little thumbs up or a yes or a whatever you like in the chat box, just to let me know that you can hear me okay, and just to let me know that you can see the screen okay as well. And then I will know that we are ready to rock and ready to get kicked off for today's session. All right, so perfect. There we go. We've just come through and we've got some confirmation. Fantastic. Okay, great. So if you are looking to learn really important parts about getting a business off the ground, this is a very, very good place to be. Okay, so your presenter today is myself. My name is Ben. I'm a professional business coach. All right. Now, what I do is I specialize in working with businesses just like so many of you on here, and just like many businesses that would value and benefit from the webinar coming up. All right. So it's what I get to do every single day. It's what I absolutely love. And I'm genuinely happy to be here always. Okay. So first discussion point for today, we're going to talk about clarity. Okay. Second, efficiency. And number 3, we're going to discuss discipline. Okay. So these 3 factors are 3 absolutely crucial components to getting our business off the ground. Okay. Building an effective business to make sure that we stick around for the long term. All right, so let's get started with topic number 1, which is clarity. All right, so a core reason for lack of growth within a business is lack of clarity. Okay, it's a very simple one, seemingly, okay, when I say it, but it's actually something that's quite commonly overlooked. Now, what we're looking at when it comes to clarity is not fully understanding exactly many things: who our ideal audience is, what it is exactly that we sell or what we do. We need to have precision when it comes to choosing the audience that we're going to serve, the product or service that we're going to offer, what exactly we want to achieve in our business. We need to have numbers, goals, tangible items that we can actually aim towards. And if you think, well, how easy would it be to grow if I told you to reach a target, but I didn't define what the target was? You might be growing, you might not be growing, but you wouldn't really know whether you were or whether you weren't, because you could have already hit the goal, you could still be aiming towards the goal. You have absolutely no idea. And further behind that, it also can stunt your ambition for growth simply because you don't know where you're going and you don't want to grow in the wrong direction, you don't want to do the wrong thing. So we need to have specific, achievable, tangible goals. And it may seem cliche, but it's actually incredibly important to continually make sure that we're analyzing this to make sure that we know exactly where we're going and we have lots of clarity on lots of different things within the business. All right. So a confused business owner will find themselves hopping from idea to idea with little to no progress on each idea before moving on to the next. Now, the reason this is a problem, you may have heard the phrase before. It's one that I commonly use over here in the UK, and it's jack of all trades, master of none. All right. Now, essentially, what that phrase means is if you try and do everything, you'll be good at nothing. All right. Now, whilst not always completely accurate, it's a very good phrase because it really encapsulates how we need to look at these things in business. So a confused business owner will find themselves hopping from idea to idea. Now, if I ask you the question, of course, you're not going to be able to answer me directly, but I'll ask you the question so that you can get thinking about it. What do you think idea hopping or moving from idea to idea would do for you as a business owner? Okay. Now, hopefully, the answer you came up with is it would stop me from moving forwards. And the reason it would stop you from moving forwards is because nothing is ever truly seen through before letting it go and jumping onto the next thing. Now, often we can just believe that, oh, this is a personality trait, or I become distracted easily, or, many, many reasons why I'm doing it. And you can see the symptom, okay? You can see what's happening. You can see on the surface, okay, I hop from idea to idea, and that's just who I am. But you can't actually see what the core cause of the symptom is, okay? It's as if, we're looking at symptoms of anything else. We have to diagnose, well, what is it that's causing these symptoms? And a lot of the time, it's complete lack of clarity on many things within the business, but primarily who the business wants to be and what the business wants to achieve. And once you develop clarity on these two things, you'll find yourself no longer idea hopping. You'll find yourself picking the right ideas to progress you towards your goal. So you need ultimate clarity on your core offer. Okay, so let's talk about for a minute what your core offer is. In a nutshell, it is precisely what your business does for its audience. Okay, what is it that you offer? Now, to give you examples, do you sell websites for small to medium businesses that don't yet have them? Do you offer website improvement to businesses that have websites but aren't performing particularly well? Do you help small to medium businesses get more traffic onto their business, okay, onto their website? Do you get them more attention? Do you get them more clicks? Do you get them more inquiries? Specifically, what is it that you do? Okay, but you have to be clear on what your core offer is, because your core offer really begins to build your business and what your business actually begins to look like. Because if you don't have any clarity on what you sell, it's very, very, very difficult to genuinely understand what you've got to do to move forwards, who you are as a business, what it is that you actually do for people. All of these different questions that could all be answered with a core offer. Okay, so a core offer is primarily what your business sells. Now, it's not necessarily to say that you can't do anything else, or once you establish the core offer, that's frozen. It's absolutely not. It can be moved, it can be adjusted, it can be updated, as long as the core point is always the same. Okay. So for a digital marketing agency owner, we always want to make sure that we're improving people's online presence. Okay. That's the ultimate goal. So you need ultimate clarity on your core offer. Okay. And you need to ultimate clarity on your ideal client. All right. Refrain from deviating from the path in times of doubt, because if you've done this before and it's not worked out particularly well for you because you identified a core offer, you identified an ideal client, and you find yourself, well, oh, I did that for a week and that didn't work, or I did that even for a month and that didn't work. You cannot deviate from this path. These things will take time, they will take consistency, they will take effort. There are lots of variables that aren't always easy to see. Okay, things as simple as, if we're running an advert on a paid advertising platform, it might not launch immediately. It might need to learn first who our audience is, how to get better, how to get more in tune. So we can't give up on these things after a week of no progress. And that's where budgeting really, really kicks in. We need to make sure that whatever budget we set, we can sustain it for at least 3 months. Okay. We want to make sure that we give everything that we do enough time. So you need ultimate clarity, first of all, on who your ideal client is, and that will come from your core offer. And additionally, refrain from deviating from the path in times of doubt. Okay. Now you can establish your core offer or your ideal client, whichever way around. Okay. Now, typically, a great thing to do is identify a problem or a gap in the market and develop an offer that fits. We want to solve the problem. We want to talk about what we can do for the prospect. Okay. So getting clarity on this is really, really useful. Next, we have efficiency. Okay. So I'm going to leave this up for you on screen so that we can talk about clarity, we can think about clarity, and I'll give you a chance now to jot down any notes you may wish to take. And indeed, please do feel free to ask any questions that you might have for us as well. And I'll see you again in just a moment's time. Excellent. So hopefully that brief pause gave good opportunity to ask away with any questions. Thank you for the questions that I have so far, and to jot down any notes or thoughts that you had on clarity, because often this can stir up a lot of conversation in our mind as to, do we have total clarity on what it is that we're trying to achieve as a business? All right. So let's move on to efficiency. Okay. So this is the second component that we're talking about today in getting our business off the ground. All right. So startup business has much to do. Okay. The business owner is wearing all the hats. Excuse me. So if you find yourself as a startup or early business owner, it can feel quite alone in a sense of, wow, am I the only one that's trying to do my accounting and trying to do my marketing and trying to do my sales and trying to manage my finances and. No, you are absolutely not alone and you're not the only one. It's very, very common for a startup to be doing all of these things because often budgets are tight and we don't have cash flow moving heavily through the business yet. And therefore, it's not easy to establish ourselves with all these different, outsourcing objectives that we have. For example, outsourcing our books, outsourcing our marketing, outsourcing our sales, any of these things. So it's not easy to do that right from the off. Okay. Now, startup business has much to do. And this is really the core principle of what we're talking about. Okay. Because getting a business off the ground, you do have to be pretty familiar with all of the tasks that you're going to need to do. Okay. And you are going to be wearing all of the hats. So, first of all, acceptance of this is an awesome way to look at it and an awesome way to move forward. Once you've clarified that this is something that you're going to have to do and going to enjoy doing, more importantly, we can then begin to figure it out. Okay. So, this means that every minute of every day matters. Okay. Every single moment throughout the working day, it's very, very important. And what does this mean? It means no extended lunch breaks, no scrolling on social media, no, moving over to the couch when you're kind of fed up and done with work for the day mentally. Okay. We have to understand and we have to genuinely get in our minds that every single minute matters today, every single one. And whatever we're doing with those minutes, we need to make sure that they're being well utilized and valuable. And honestly, if you implement this thought system, you will find yourself getting way more done than you ever thought capable. Okay. You ever thought possible even. So when you're looking at things this way, things that have been sitting on your to-do list for days, weeks, months, even years waiting to get done, you will very quickly find that they begin to get done. Okay, so first of all, it's a mindset. We don't want to think about needing to outsource just now if it's simply a matter of the fact that we just need to move that little bit quicker. And it's not always about moving quicker as much as it is utilizing every single minute of every single day. Okay, if I ask you for the past 2 hours today before joining this webinar, what did you do? Was it useful? Was it a good use of your time? Or could you sort of hold your hands up and say, you know what, actually, for half an hour out of those past 2 hours, I just sat scrolling on LinkedIn. Okay, every single minute matters. So please try and make sure that whatever you're doing, it is productive. Now, if we've done that, we can introduce systems that will allow you to improve the speed of manual tasks. Okay. Now, this is where systemizing, automation, and efficiency comes in. All right. Because first things first, we need to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible and that our mindset is in the best possible place to continually dominate each day. Once we've done that, once we can truly say, I am a machine, I'm moving forward as quickly as I can, we can then begin to introduce systems that can help us move even faster. Okay, so introducing these systems, let's talk about them. First thing, bookkeeping. Okay, manual task. Very, very time consuming if you're not doing it properly. So let's introduce simple systems. Do you use an accounting software? If not, that is absolutely something to do. Okay, as well as being able to track exactly what's happening in the finances of your business. It'll also allow you certain automations and systems to implement to automate your invoicing, for example, or even automate payments if you so wish it to. Okay. It's things that will be done normally manually that it can save you such a huge amount of time. That's 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours a week saved sometimes. Okay. When I speak to small business owners and they say, Ben, yeah, every time I need an invoice, even if I'm using a template, I do it in, Word or Docs or whatever it is that they're using, and they'll do the invoice manually every single time. And I say, why are you doing that? Let's put that thing on recurring. Let's just get it going out same time, same day, every month, same invoice. Okay. If it's consistent, even if it's not, using this software will allow you to just fill in the important details that you need to fill in and do it all in less than 5 minutes. Okay. Very, very straightforward, very, very efficient. Meeting appointments, appointment booking software. Okay. This one screams at me because we see so many small business owners going backwards and forwards, startup businesses alike. They go backwards and forwards and they're negotiating with the client on the best time. Okay. And it's an email one going across, hi, how are you? Email two going back across, well, thanks, how are you? And back and forwards, playing this email ping pong until eventually somebody decides on a time for the meeting and a meeting fits. All of that time, all of that email communication could be saved. Okay. Now, one very, very, very interesting component to think about here is if we are going back to our emails every 2 minutes to check, what does that do? We're checking for a response because we have mentally in the back of our minds, we're waiting for a response from Brian, for example, to sit down for a sales meeting. Now, what happens here is, first of all, you're not focusing on your task in hand because you have in the back of your mind that you need to go and do something else, i.e., go to your emails. Second thing that's going to happen, when you do go back to your emails to check, you're going to end up scrolling through your emails almost needlessly because you went in there for one purpose and you end up getting distracted because you're going through all the different emails or you've had a couple more new emails come in. Again, pulling you off track, pulling you off task. These are habits we need to remove to establish consistency. Whatever it is we've chosen to do, we focus purely 110% on that task. All right. So we don't want to be encouraging distraction by actually going over to do something else. Now, those are the two components that nobody tends to necessarily realize are happening when we go and do simple things. So they might say, oh, no, I just need to check my emails just to see if somebody's gotten back to me. Usually that's not as simple, okay? As we said, first component, we have it in the back of our minds, we're a little bit distracted. Second component, once we're in our emails, we're going to keep scrolling because we just have a habit of looking through our emails. All right. So use appointment booking software. It will change the way that you do business. Next, file organization. Okay. We need to make sure that every time we use a file, we introduce a system ourselves that it is filed instantly. Okay. The best way to avoid half an hour, 3 hours, 10 hours organizing files every week is to just organize them in the right place to begin with. And if you need a new folder, just create a new folder at that point in time, pop the file in there, done. Okay. If we put things in the right place at the start, there's never any need to then go and clean it up. Okay. Because it's always going back to where it should be, or it's always being organized in a way that it should. So client contacts, another one. Okay. Make sure that we're on a regular system with this. So every Friday, for example, we have a meeting, or every Friday we send a report or whatever that is. If the more consistent it is, the more systemized it is, the more efficient we can be. Okay. Systematically meet with your client every Friday at 1:30 till 2. All right. You sit there for the half an hour, you work through the agenda, and agendas, by the way, are another great system to speed things up and keep them efficient and get more done. What's most important here is a lot of these systems that we're looking at introducing, they're not just about doing it faster, they're also about doing a better job. Okay. Because you might be thinking in the back of your head, well, Ben, yeah, these all sound great and they will be quicker, but what if I'm going to get things wrong? Or what if we're not going to do as good as a job as we usually do because we're trying to move quicker? The opposite of that will happen if you introduce the right system. So client contact, task management, okay, another great one. Where do you organize your tasks and how do you organize your tasks? You need to be prioritizing what tasks you need to do. An enormous waste of time is working on a low priority task, such as file organization, when there's a high priority task like prospecting calls waiting to be done. Okay. Always go to the high priority task first. And secondly, organize your tasks. Okay. We don't want them all over left, right, and center, some in notes, some on calendar, some in email. We need them collated into one simple, clean list so that we can work through them and then prioritize them. Okay. Or prioritize them first, sorry, and then work through them. So the systems will only work as well as you do. Make sure you're not wasting time. All right. You may surprise yourself how much you can get done with good focus, because honestly, systems are not as effective as they should be if you're not focused and moving forwards without them. And then when you introduce them, you can go even faster. All right, so I'll leave that up on screen. Again, that's us at the end of topic number 2. And very briefly, we'll be moving on to topic number 3 for today's final webinar topic. All right, I'll see you in just a moment. All right, perfect. So topic number 3, discipline. Okay. Now, this is the third and final topic to speak about, and it's a very, very effective one. As a self-employed person or business owner, it's very, very easy to become inconsistent and choose relaxing activities over business work because of a lack of consequence. Okay. Now, lack of consequence is one of many, many reasons as to why we're not as productive as we could be. But what we must remember is that nobody is going to grow our business for us. We're the ones driving this ship, okay? We're the ones steering the ship, making sure it's going forward. Now, The lack of consequence, specifically what that means is if you imagine yourself in a scenario where you were working a job, 9 to 5 job, for example, if you don't do the work that you're expected to do, you might get a warning, or potentially even worse, you might be let go. Okay. But as a self-employed person, the consequences aren't, as clear. They're not quite as straightforward. They don't make as much sense because we think, well, I really should be doing prospecting calls, but instead I'm actually pretty tired. I'm just going to go and sit on the couch for a little bit. Okay. Because you can't feel that immediate consequence doesn't mean it's not going to happen. A lack of consequence means, in this context, a lack of direct consequence because somebody's looking at you, waiting for you to do the work. When we're self-employed or when we're business owners, we don't have somebody standing there waiting for us to do it. It's up to us to drive that ship forward, and it's easy to forget. Okay. And now the consequence of that is that if you're not doing prospecting calls, you won't have any leads. If you don't have any leads, you can't sign any new business. And if you can't sign any new business, guess what? There is no business. So the lack of consequence directly, sure, but it's not a lack of consequence in the overall picture. And this is what we need to begin to remember and truly understand, okay? So procrastination can become a comfort of sorts, created from our own self-doubt and our ability to complete a task. So procrastination, again, it's a symptom, okay? And we have to look at the cause to find out what's causing the symptom. So the procrastination element is in fact a symptom. It's not the cause. You're not somebody who just procrastinates. There is a reason for your procrastination. And often it's because of our sort of self-doubt or an inner voice telling us we can't complete that task. We have a lack of confidence, meaning, you know what, it's easier just to avoid it until I wake up tomorrow and I feel more capable. I'm going to do that. Okay. Now, if you have ever put your hand up, again, I won't be able to see it, but put your hand up if you have ever felt like, I know I'll feel better tomorrow. I know I'll be able to do it tomorrow. I'll be more capable, or next week, or I'll just push that back in the calendar because I'll feel more tuned in that day. All right. This is where procrastination really stems from. It's a comfort. It allows us to deal with things in a different way, and it's not always positive. Okay. Often our self-doubt creeps in. We've got into a belief system where we believe that we can't achieve something, and therefore we decide, oh, do you know what? It's easier just to push it back. All right. So we have to understand this about procrastination. Now, discipline begins at the start of our day. Okay. The way you start the day influences the way that you continue. If you think about any time you ever had a great day, was it because you had a really, really, really bad start? Maybe it was, and that's fantastic because days can be turned around. But for the most part, discipline begins right at the start of your day. It happens right in the moment you get out of your bed and you follow that morning routine. Okay. The way you start influences the way that you continue. Let's start thinking this way. If you want to have a great day, you need to get started. Okay. Now, there's something that I say an awful lot, and it's getting things done that you don't want to do. Okay. Now, let's say that you've been avoiding something or procrastinating on something like, perhaps it's just something as simple as washing a dish. Okay. Now, if you don't want to wash that dish, essentially what you're telling your mind is, well, if I don't want to do that, I don't have to do it. Okay. Now, what we don't want to do is get into this thought pattern of, well, when I don't want to do something, I just don't do it. Okay. Because often, are you going to want to make a cold call? No. Are you going to want to send an email? Sometimes no. Are you going to want to do a bit of content? Sometimes no. Okay. You cannot allow yourself to not do something simply because you don't want to do it. Discipline starts at the start of our day. Now, overcome procrastination by diluting your intimidating tasks. Okay. It's easier to walk one step at a time. If something seems monumentally inachievable, break it down into smaller segments. Okay. If you have decided to write a book and you think, geez, how am I going to write a 300-page book? Break it down into chapters, then break it down into segments, then break it down into topics. Okay. And just write one topic at a time. All right. And it will all tie together. So allow yourself the opportunity to break these things down. Okay. So that brings us to the end of topic number 3. I'll take another brief pause so that we can ask any final questions and indeed jot down any final notes. And then I'll see you again in just a moment for the recap. Perfect. So let's move on to the recap for today's session then. So number 1, clarity. Don't be confused about your goals. Make sure you have absolute focus on where you want to go. Number 2, efficiency. Every single minute matters. Begin reminding yourself of this every day. And finally, discipline. It begins at the start of our day. Okay. So as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend our session today. I very much hope that you enjoyed it. If you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you can do so over at iob-business.com/talk. And on that link, you can book a call at a time that suits you, and you'll see a calendar just like this one if you'd like to book in a conversation with us. Now, I'm going to pull up the questions that I have from everyone today. I'm going to leave this link up on screen there as well. All right. So, first question, and I love this one. It's a very, very good question. I didn't realize before, but I believe I may be affected by procrastination. Okay, so half statement, half question, but I love it. Okay. And the reason for that is that self-analysis is difficult. All right. It's easy to give ourselves a break, quote unquote, even when it's not necessarily good timing. In fact, we often sort of try and give ourselves a break when it's the worst possible timing. Okay, we've got so much on and we think, you know what, I just need a break from this. So self-analysis is difficult. We just have to begin picking up on what's happening and why it's happening. And if you feel like procrastinating on something, ask yourself the real reason why. Okay, because it's usually not because you're tired. It's usually not because you can't be bothered. It's usually because you have maybe a self-doubt or a fear of getting something wrong, or you're not completely sure on how to complete a task. All right. So solutions for that, pretty simple. If you're not sure, go and research it, Google it, speak to someone about it, get some information on how to do what you need to do, and then go forth. Awesome question. Thank you. Next question. What system would you recommend for task management? Cool. Okay. So there's plenty to choose from. Honestly, if you go into Google and you look for task management software, all right, you might find on there a platform that works best for you. All right. We all work differently. There's ones that I prefer, there's ones that you'll prefer, there's ones that other people will prefer. It's very, very independent because what I find and what I found in my years of coaching is that everybody looks at things in different ways. So you might prefer to organize something very slightly different to me, which is why I don't want to point blank tell you right now, this is how you should do it. Please, though, go and have a look and see what you can find. There's plenty to choose from and a great question. Thanks very much. And I hope that helps. All right. Do we have any more questions from today? It doesn't look like we do. Okay, wonderful. Well, as always, have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And thanks very much again for joining the webinar. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye for now.